Welcome to the first edition of Worldview, the new video show from Hindustan Times, where we are going to focus on foreign policy and world affairs. And in the first program today, we have as our guest the ambassador of Thailand. Everybody knows him as Ambassador Sam, and that's what I'm going to call him. Ambassador Sam, we have some very important meetings coming up, the East Asia Summit, and Thailand being the chair of ASEAN for this year. These meetings are going to have a lot of implications for not just the ASEAN countries, but also the partners of ASEAN, because you're going to look at things like Indo-Pacific, trade. So could you just give us a rundown on what's coming up?
In the next couple of days, it's very exciting, for diplomats, but not only for diplomats, because in ASEAN and in the Indo-Pacific framework, we are working for the well-being of everyone. So that's why for a diplomat like me, it's very exciting. Over 30 foreign ministers will be descending on Bangkok. And the subject matters range from, I don't think there are any easy subject matters, range from South China Sea, the environment, North Korea, and RCEP. Yes.
South China Sea is something that's taken a bit of, it's hogged the media headlines in the last few days. Is there going to be something done to kind of address the tensions that are happening over there? And, the ASEAN also came out with its outlook for Indo-Pacific. Is that something that you are going to be discussing at more length?
I think the best case scenario for the South China Sea issue is that the different parties, get an opportunity to air their views, and yet in a way that doesn't affect the overall peace, and of the ASEAN ministerial meeting and the post-ministerial conferences. That's the beauty of the ASEAN annual meetings, because people can come together without having to make reasons, because the meeting is there. They come together and then they use those meetings to air their views. Some publicly, some privately, but hopefully the outcome of the meeting reflects harmony and the open communication channels. That's what we're hoping for.
And the Indo-Pacific, India's vision as articulated by the Prime Minister is of an inclusive Indo-Pacific. A lot of that dovetails with the ASEAN outlook. Do you think there would also be a role for players like BIMSTEC now?
Yes. I'm very proud and happy that in the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific, IORA, Indian Ocean Rim Association, and BIMSTEC were specifically mentioned, because that highlights the fact that the Indian Ocean and the African continent are part of, the Indo-Pacific construct. And that view of Thailand, of Indonesia, of India coincides. So I'm happy that signals for India, that we see the same thing. What ASEAN would like to hear from these meetings is what our dialogue partners would like to prioritize in the 4 areas of cooperation, which is connectivity, sustainable development, maritime cooperation, and economics. So we've prioritized 4 areas, and it should be possible, for us to sort of find common views around that. And if we can do these 4 areas, it will bring, positive development and inclusive development for everyone. Our embassies around, in the different countries have emphasized to the various capitals that ASEAN would like to hear what our dialogue partners would like to do in these 4 areas.
Another issue that has taken a lot of media headlines in the recent past has been RCEP, and whether it's going to be ASEAN plus 3 or it's going to be the original construct of 16 players signing on for it. Where do you think we are headed, given the fact that there's been quite a bit of pushback in India from some of the industry bodies on RCEP?
I want to stay optimistic, and I always want to play put a positive tone on it, because I've witnessed the ASEAN Troika, Thailand, Indonesia, and the ASEAN Secretary General visiting India just recently. And today's article in South China Morning Post also reflects that as a result of more direct talks, more open and direct talks, we understand India's position or predicament better. And there are a lot of people that can sell newspapers, by painting a gloomy picture of everything. But what everyone needs is some positivity. In this framework of, in this tone, mood and tone of the global economy, what we need is more market openings. And if we can get the RCEP deal, it will give people confidence to go and do other deals. For example, I'm betting on RCEP, and then India moving on with BIMSTEC FTA, and then we can also review the ASEAN-India FTA and complete the Thai-India FTA. But, we have to negotiate in a balanced manner, and win-win should not just be words, but maybe, we get goods, but you have to give India services and so on. And some of India's issues that India has been facing, like rules of origin, the domestic regulation in services, these issues have to be addressed and have to be addressed.
Coming back to bilateral matters, most people in India, when they think of Thailand, it's just as a tourist destination. But there have been efforts. You have been making efforts to ramp up trade in recent years, and the other aspect that is looking up is security and defense cooperation. So
it's with you that I had that conversation about Thailand being underrepresented and our relationship being under potential. But I'm into my third year, and I can really feel that the pace is picking up. I impolitely, perhaps told the External Affairs Minister that in the past week, I felt like some blood vessels are going to burst in my head, But excitement is better than having a lot of free time, right? So we're looking forward to Prime Minister Modi visiting Thailand the end of this year, with the ASEAN Summit. And as we speak, we are trying to schedule it's called a joint committee meeting between the External Affairs Ministers, as soon as August, even as soon as August. And this will further help drive, the bilateral agenda. We officials have been doing our work, but I've met the new External Affairs Minister, and he said himself that he's an impatient man. And I believe that with him at the helm, Thai-India relations will speed up at least another 25%. And we will take the quick wins, for both sides. This is not just about Thailand. I didn't mention before that with RCEP. An RCEP without India is not worth it, okay? And India is part of the future. So the people who say, leaving India out and so on, it's just posturing.
Coming to security cooperation, there is some talk of having a three-country naval exercise. Is that happening this year?
Yes. This year it will happen in India, next year in Singapore, and the following year in Thailand. But that's the location of the training, but it'll be trilateral. And this is another one of those where you have to get more comfortable in the relationship, which you can do in different ways. And it also points to the value of ASEAN. Singapore was an important interlocutor, to make all this happen. A lot of the lobbying was done here in Delhi.
Because they've had long-standing defense ties with India.
But and that shows the value of ASEAN. I mentioned that there are 10 members, but you may be more comfortable to talk with one, on certain issues, and another and then we use our good offices, to bring more people on board. So thanks to Singapore for that. And the other aspect is exchanges of visits. I've seen with the visit of the naval chief, there has been, a significant change. So we will probably be buying more military equipment from India. I was hoping for BrahMos this year. Perhaps it will not happen this year, but it's just positive. It's just a matter of when. And I'm grateful that this year there will be important purchases and so on.
Have you tried the BrahMos with any of the Thai platforms?
This is beyond my technical capability, but I just listen out as a diplomat. I listen out for areas of cooperation, and I've seen BrahMos mentioned, and we were talking about this year, but maybe now it's going to be this next year. That alone makes me excited, because the alternative would be no talk of coastal radar, no talk of repair, overhaul of aircraft, no talk of BrahMos, and so on.
We also, of course, tourism, although that's what most Indians know it for, it's a very important part. It's a very important part of the relationship.
It is.
Are you looking to increase air services?
Oh, we're looking to increase tourists also, because now this year we hope to get 2 million Indian tourists to Thailand, going up to 10 million by 2030. And part of the success is due to the fantastic air connectivity that we have, between us. I understand it's around 300 plus flights per week, but this is mutually beneficial. It has to be mutually beneficial, meaning more Thai tourists are also coming, instead of the Buddhist trail, the usual, now we have young tourists, coming to Leh, coming to Srinagar, and so on. And there's so much material on YouTube, which is helping to promote India, even my wife on Facebook and so on. So it's mutual. But I'd like to say something on behalf of ASEAN, that as a collective, we would like to see more air connectivity between us, which will help our relations, our commercial relations, and even, facilitate, like if an air chief or naval chief or army chief wants to come, he can fly, commercial and direct. So when things settle down, we'd like to go as ASEAN to see, Minister Hardeep Singh Puri, and talk about how we can ramp up, the air connectivity.
Thank you so much for your time, Ambassador Sam.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you.